Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Growth Path. Today I have an Austrian on me that's actually just not too far away down the road from where I am, and also one of the co-founders of Purple Path. Marcus himself and Thomas actually live in the same town, and we were just joking before that this town in Austria is the highest density of SaaS marketers in Austria based on the population that's there. Today I have Thomas Peham, who is now the co-founder of OtterlyAI. In the past, he has worked or is still working at Storyblok, where he's seen massive growth during a 4-year time period or 5-year time period there over the past years, and has been seeing like massive go-to-market team growth whilst he was there. And we're going to dig into that a little bit as well. And it's actually funny, we were just talking before this, we're both based in Austria. There's a lot of people that we would have in common in our network. I've been here for 16 years. He's been here since the day he was born. And our paths have never actually crossed. So I'm actually super excited to have this chat. Welcome, Thomas.
Thanks, Andy. Super happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sure, no worries. Look, tell us a little bit. So are you still with Storyblok, or what are you doing with Storyblok nowadays?
Yeah, so right now I have 2 jobs. I have 2 part-time jobs. I'm still with Storyblok in a IC, individual contributor role, and on the side I build OtterlyAI.
Tell me a little bit about Otterly, and then we'll get into Storyblok, etc. But I'm excited to hear about Otterly.
To keep it simple, Otterly is an AI search monitoring solution. So many marketing teams probably use SEO software these days. Think of SEMrush, Ahrefs, or any other SEO software. And we're that for AI search. We help marketing teams monitor Google AI overviews, ChatGPT, and Perplexity. The reason why I basically built Otterly in the first place is because of my own need as a marketer. At one point, I realized, like a year ago or so, that Google, obviously Google is a super important channel for us at Storyblok, for many other SaaS businesses, right? We keep optimizing organic, paid investments in Google and so on and so forth, right? But at one point I realized that in reality, I have no idea what's going on ChatGPT. Is our brand visible? What do people research? ChatGPT is turning in some sort of answer engine, right? So people do conduct their research there as well. Perplexity is picking up in tremendous user growth. So I kind of realized that I, as a marketing leader, had no idea what's going on there and how visible we are. We kept seeing some first referral traffic coming in Google Analytics, right? But the reality is it was a black box back then. And I've done some research on the market. I looked if there is a monitoring tracking solution that would help me understand how visible is Storyblok, for example, in the CMS space on ChatGPT. I haven't found a solution, so I started building it myself.
Interesting. Super. I think that's the way of the future, to be honest with you. Instead, I think Google are probably really concerned right now in terms of how that, how this is going to pan out, right?
Yeah.
It's also, they're not doing themselves any favors as of late as well, because they've basically hurt a lot of or they've hurt a lot of people's organic traffic over the past weeks as well with some updates. But we can talk about that separately. But when it comes to the way that people are searching for things nowadays, like using a ChatGPT, or if it's a ChatGPT competitor, I think that's probably the way of the future, right?
Yeah, I don't want to be the person predicting Google's death or anything. I don't think that's going to happen in a way, right? Google will adjust and adopt. Look at our own usage and our own behavior, right? I'm going on a trip. I want to go to a trip to Mallorca, right? So what did I do? I went into ChatGPT and asked for the top hotel recommendations who cater towards families, right? And it would give me a list of 10 different hotels. As a next step, I'll go to Google then and look up the website, right? Because I haven't seen the direct web citation. So let's flip that, right, to our marketing view. As a marketer, that's incredible. How do we even attribute that, right? It's not possible. It's at least very hard to attribute that my user journey started on ChatGPT. That's where I saved kind of top in my head 3 brands. I went to Google to look them up, and from there on, I would browse their website. So I think at Otterly, we try to help with stage 1, right? Tracking brand awareness and that, because I really believe that user journeys are changing. And Google is adopting to that. Google rolled out AI overviews, AI generated answers in the US, in the UK, and some other markets. And to be honest, what I'm hearing from SaaS companies and others is this already leads to a decline in organic traffic, because Google is I mean, at the end of the day, in a way, also turning into a walled garden, right? Google is giving answers directly through AI-generated answers, through other stuff, the Google snippets and all of that. So the whole typical traditional SEO playbook is changing, and we as a brand, we as marketers also have to rethink how we're going to deal with that.
Yeah, there was also something I was reading about yesterday, which was, I'm just trying to remember what it was. It was, yeah, like the organic click-through rate. So zero-click SEO being like a new big thing, which I guess is playing a role in what you've just described there, right? The zero-click SEO.
Yeah.
So you're basically doing a search and then seeing what the answers are and then moving on from there. You're not necessarily going and clicking onto the page, right?
Correct. And SparkToro is a great resource for that. I think they published a study that 60% of all Google search queries in the US and in Europe go to 0 clicks. So at the end of the day, we as marketers, we're fighting for a smaller piece. We're fighting for the 40%.
Wild. Yeah, it's wild. But that's just you. That's the human behavior now. That's just how people are using the internet, basically, right? So it's just how it works. All right. So at Otterly, do you guys have any customers yet? Or like what stage are you at there?
Yeah. I mean, we're super early with this, right? So we just recently launched a product, but the amazing thing is we haven't done any marketing, and we've grown to 1,300 users or so who gave us a try. And yeah, I've got some first paying customers and big brands talking to us. So let's see where the journey goes. But it's quite fascinating because it kind of shows me that lots of marketing teams think about how they need to adjust their marketing strategies based on that future where it's about 0-click marketing on Google, and it's about how to optimize brand and brand visibility on ChatGPT and other AI search engines. So, I mean, I'm not a person making big plans, but let's see what the future brings, and we're super early on with this.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Like, when did you launch it?
I mean, we had some iterations, right? I mean, as I would recommend anyone, right? Before you start building it, talk to your customers, talk to your personas. So I was chatting to probably 30, 40 marketers in the space, and I knew. And then we put the current version live in October. Yeah, I mean, to be very frank, with end of November, we only added billing and payments to it. And yeah, since then, so basically since November now, we've onboarded 1,300 users and about 20. I think we're now at 20 paying customers.
Wow. Congrats, man. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Any geographical spread like on those users?
I mean, it's pretty US focused, right? Because Google is still the most important channel for most marketing teams. And to be very honest, I don't think we in Austria or Germany have realized what's to come on Google in the next few weeks and months when they start rolling out the AI overviews here as well. So lots of US customers told me that they lost 20%, 25%, sometimes even more of organic traffic since Google rolled out the AI overviews. So I think we're not realizing that here in Europe so far, but therefore it's mostly US customers really at the end of the day for us.
When do you think those changes are going to come in Europe?
I mean, I don't know. I have no direct connection to Google, but they have rolled it out by now in over 100 countries. It is in the UK, I believe. It's also like in Canada, Australia, and other big markets. But I mean, my expectation would be Q1, Q2, so first half of this year.
Were they the updates that they rolled out mid-December, those updates? Or when did it start with those updates?
The AI overview was introduced in the US in May, actually, last year. So it's officially out since May last year.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so like, congrats on that, by the way, man. That's really exciting for you. Are you going to look for a round, or are you going to just try to bootstrap it? Like, what are you thinking?
I mean, so far my head is really at building the product, right? So we're so early. So now we have to build the product, retain users, make them happy, create some nice viral loops so they're gonna refer us as well. But I mean, no fundraising plan so far. Trying to bootstrap it as far as we can go, and then I mean, let's see what else there is on the road. But building the product, really focused on that, and really enjoying that a lot, to be honest. So it's also for me a new adventure and new. Some beyond marketing, right? So lots of user research, product building, wireframing, and such. So
that's
I
cool,
really
man.
enjoy that part.
That's exciting. I mean, like, look, you've come from a marketing background, so it's not really what you've been working on in the past years, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, in the last 4 years, I was fully focused on building out the marketing function at Storyblok and building the team, growing the team, and yeah, I mean, that is and was a joyful ride in itself, right? But just different in a way.
Yeah. Are you so at Storyblok? I know that there was. I'm not sure if there still is a volume play within Storyblok, like it's some volume SaaS business in there as well, but it's mostly enterprise businesses, right, that work with Storyblok, or is it volume as well?
I mean, Storyblok originally started as a fully self-serve PLG product.
Yeah, that's what I
Up
thought.
until so the company was started by our two founders, Alex and Dominic, in 2017, and up until 2020, there was basically no go-to-market team. So they were bootstrapping this in a fully self-serve way until 2020, and then the whole enterprise motion and also partner channel started on top of that. I joined the team part-time in 2020 and then full-time in 2021. At the same time, we were building out the sales and partner function, and I was building out the marketing function. And since then, I mean, lots has changed. We still have a self-service PLG product, and it's still the foundation, I would say, the baseline of what we do. But I mean, the growth is definitely coming from our partner channel as well as our enterprise go-to-market.
Okay, so is the PLG play still in practice? Like, are you still pushing a PLG play?
I mean, we're still pushing for it, but it's the priorities. Let's put it that way: the priorities, the budgets, the resources are towards the enterprise play.
Which makes sense. I mean, so fair enough. Okay. Tell me a little bit about, so you were at Storyblok now since 2020, or before that? Was it 2020?
I mean, I started as a part-time in 2020, September 2020. And basically it was at the time when Dominic called me and he was like, Thomas, I just hired the first marketer. I have no idea what to do in marketing. Can you come and help me build it? So I came on board part-time because back then I was freelancing as like a fractional CMO, software marketing freelancer, helping different European marketing teams, basically. So I came on board part-time, and then I realized basically the potential and where the company already was back then. So back in 2020, it was about 20 people, so 20 employees, FTEs in the company, no marketing, sales just started as well. And I then took the opportunity to join and come on board full-time in January 21 as VP marketing. And yeah, between January 21 and September 24, I led the marketing function as VP marketing. And I mean, we've grown the company to 250 people. The marketing team has grown to about 25 people. And yeah, I mean, I'm really proud that one of the things I keep saying is that I'm really proud that the marketing team is now bigger than the whole company was when I joined in 2020.
Yeah, cool, yeah.
Which I mean, typical scale up, not typical, I guess, but you know the scale up story, right? Lots of challenges along the way, lots of change along the way, but I mean, I'm super, super grateful and super, super proud of the whole team and the whole company on what we've already accomplished.
Scale ups, man. Blood, sweat, and tears is probably the best way to put it, and lots of tears. Jesus Christ, there's a lot of learnings to be had when it comes to scale ups. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you encountered when you're running that team, right? So you went from being a part timer with a team of one, or advising one, to a team of 25 within the space of, let's say, 3 years, maybe.
Yeah, 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about some of the things that kept you awake at night during that journey.
I mean, I think, as you said, right, there are many, many, many challenges along the way. But I mean, I keep saying for us, it was all about growth challenges, right? And it's so much easier in a way to have growth challenges than other painful challenges when you're not growing. But I mean, the number one thing is always hiring, right? When you need to hire, when you want to hire people, especially in a fast-paced environment, right? One of the key things that are always around is where to find good talent and how to train on board people and how to retain people, right? Because at the end of the day, in a scale-up life, companies are changing way faster than a traditional company. So you need to think about what do I need right now in terms of roles and resources. But also then let's think 2 years in advance, right? How would that team look like in 2 years, in 3 years of time? So, I mean, the learnings I had is that you basically have to look for people who are knowledgeable, right? For sure. People who are, if you look for specialists who have that specialist knowledge. But since we're fully remote, right, and have been since day one, you also need to look for people who are very empathetic and authentic, right? Because when you don't get the chance to meet them daily in the office, you really need strong communicators. So one of the things that are always super important for us is communication skills, written communication skills, since we live so much async. I mean, these are all challenges in the same way, right? Because you can check for that while hiring, right? But only to a certain degree. It's funny in a way because we also learned that in a remote setup, you also need to check basic computer knowledge, right? This sounds super simple, right? But you need to make sure that people are able. We don't have an IT team, right? We don't have an IT team where I can go to in the office and be like, this is my IT computer issue. You need people who are able to figure out that themselves, right? And I mean, I can talk for hours about hiring, but I mean, hiring is always a challenge and definitely has been in the last few years as well. I think as we moved also from Europe to the US, obviously our culture has changed. We're constantly changing how we work together, how we embrace our culture, right? So I think as we move the company from a more European mindset to an international mindset, which we always tried from day one, obviously there are so many local differences, communication differences, legal differences when you hire people in the US compared to Europe. So one of the most recommended book reads we gave to people is the culture map from Arian Myers, because it talks a lot about how do people communicate in different cultures and how to give feedback and how to give feedback in a way so people perceive it in the right way, but also it's conveyed in a good way with good intentions, right? So, I mean, these are all things we also had to learn along the way, but people hiring is definitely the number one topic that comes to my mind.
It's so time consuming as well, you know, so it's such a time suck, and like in so many ways, right? So there's obviously the screening interviews that need to happen, right? So let's talk about, you have a couple of round of interviews, right?
Yeah.
I know my playbook when it comes to this because I've also been in a position where I've gone through massive scaling from like a team of 4 or 5 people, I think, up to a team of over 50. And in the space of less than 2 years, which was just like wild, right?
Yeah.
And I had to be involved in nearly every single hire. It's like somehow I needed to be there as a culture check or just make sure that they're not crazy or whatever it is, right? There's always something, right?
Yeah.
But there's like the time that it takes is just like insane. And then if you end up hiring the wrong fit or the wrong person, that is also another waste of time because you're going to go through at least a quarter of having the wrong person on the team, not to mention the resource that you're then taking up. And then you need to start all over again with the search again. Like hiring is just a pain, you know?
And yeah, 100%. And in addition to that, I think there's another layer, which is around which role are you looking for, right? And I can give you one example. As we were starting, we were thinking about investing in analyst relations, right? Analyst relations. And I had some exposure in the past to analyst relations, but I never hired an analyst relations person and I've never been in that role, right? So how do you do that without that context, right? So I think one of the learnings I have there is, to a certain degree, you also have to, when hiring roles that aren't there yet, right, you have to make it very clear in the hiring and onboarding process that you expect that from the person to come in to define that with you, right? We had ambitions, we had goals around analyst relations, right? But the reality is we needed someone to come in as the expert and tell us what to do. And that's, I guess, another layer of complexity when hiring, right? Because you need to find a trusted person, a trusted sparring partner that you trust the whole area, a whole budget, a whole maybe even team with. And basically that person needed to tell me what to do. So it's kind of the unknown situation in a way.
Oh, it's tough, man. And it's also like when you're hiring across multiple regions as well, right? The specific roles in different regions. So I know so based on muscle memory now at this point, when I go into an interview, I can tell within the first 5 minutes whether or not it's going to be a fit based on US, Germany, Austria, France to a certain extent, UK, the US, like I know like what to look for in a US candidate, right? I know exactly what are like big red flags. Just to go to your point before, can you trust people? I think that's like the major thing. Can you trust people? And I've seen so many hands burnt, especially in the US market, because I think people in the US sell themselves really well. I think that's something that we're not very good at in Europe. It's probably an overstatement, but we deal differently. We're probably less like, look how great we are. We're more sort of like, oh, we're probably a bit more down to earth, or down to earth is probably the wrong way to put it. That we're probably a little bit more self-deprecating than people in the States would be, which has its positives and its negatives, right? Like when you're in that hiring position, you need to know what to look out for across multiple regions, as you said, right? So that's an additional layer to it. So.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, time zones are a thing as well, right? So at one point we had people from like all the way from Asia Pacific to the West Coast in the US, right? And I mean, it then becomes literally impossible to, for example, schedule a marketing meeting where everybody is on a friendly time, right? So either the person on the West Coast or the person in Australia has to jump on a call at late hours or super early hours, right? And I mean, you can't build workarounds around time zones. That's my learning.
And for you, man, the fun never stops. As the marketing leader, it's like the sun is rising in the east while it's going down in the west, type of thing. It's.
Yeah, I mean, you need to build a system. You need to build frameworks. You need to hire people who you trust, and you let. I mean, I'm saying you can't micromanage people. You need to have 100% trusted people. People are very well aligned around goals and outcomes and outputs, right? Because you can't. I mean, literally, you can't micromanage them, even if you want. And I'm not a fan of micromanaging, but it's not possible in a remote setups. You need to let people do their job, right? And you need to have a framework and tools in place where there's check-ins, there's social check-ins, but there's also hard check-ins around output and outcomes. And that also takes time. That needs to build up, right? Speaking of frameworks and place, building the rocket ship while flying definitely comes with its challenges, but I wouldn't miss it for a second.
I get it. I know the feeling. Like, would you say that was like one of the biggest challenges that you had was like growing the team and finding the right people during, like, was that like one of the biggest pains you had? Pain, probably an overstatement, but you know what I mean? One of the biggest challenges?
I would say so, because I mean, from a go-to-market perspective, sure, there are challenges, there are topics coming up when you build direct sales, when you build a partner channel, when you build inbound, outbound motion, right? So, but I think overall, sure, it's all about people. It comes down to people and the frameworks and tools you give to people. Because the fascinating thing for me at Storyblok is that it is quite a diverse set of go-to-market motions, right? And if I look at previous SaaS companies I've worked for, most often SaaS companies succeed in one particular go-to-market motion. It could be direct sales, could be outbound, could be inbound PLG, could be partner, right? But the amazing thing to me at Storyblok is we're growing all channels at the same time. We're growing the partner channel. We're growing direct sales inbound. We're growing direct sales outbound. We still have a PLG product, right? So one of the things that also comes with its own challenges is that variety of go-to-market streams, right? And how you're gonna prioritize that. Where do you put? Because every company of any size needs to prioritize, right? Needs to define, this is important for us. This comes next, and then that, right? So how do you do that with such a diverse set of go-to-market streams is definitely definitely always is a challenge. But at the same time, it was super fascinating. It's still fascinating that it still works at Storyblok. While I think in many other industries and SaaS businesses, it's most often it's one channel where it's pure focus, 100% focus, and let's grow, right? Let's go.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is it like, having so many different like growth models working at the same time is a challenge, and then trying to get people to focus on this prioritization, as you mentioned, is definitely difficult. One of the things that I found as well, being in a role where it was going through that massive scaling, was that I hadn't really done it before. Like as a leader trying to build a team, as you mentioned just there before, like you'd never hired for an analyst relations role before. You'd sort of had a bit of experience, but you didn't really know what to look for. And I think like the balance that I always found difficult or the balance that I even find difficult now when I'm working with companies is saying to them, like, I speak with CEOs and they're like, oh, we found this person that's done it all before. They've seen the journey from like 30 to 50 million ARR. So they know exactly what to do. And I'm like, that rings alarm bells for me, because first of all, no two journeys are the same.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, right? So you mentioned there's many different go-to-market motions that you can have, that and maybe a pairing of a couple or one works in particular, and all of them might work together. It's like a fragile ecosystem. So there's like understanding what the playbook is. You can bring in certain elements which are interesting, but then the second part, which I would argue, which is the most important part, is the hunger to actually want to do it again. And I don't know if there's that many people out there that, or there might be, but like I always find it hard to find people that want to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I generally agree with that sentiment. I mean, it comes. I would still say if you're, I mean, let's say you're in the 0 to 1 million bucket. Sure, find someone who has both the hunger as well as who has done that before, right? That's the dream setup. Same thing goes from 1 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 to 100, and so on and so forth, right? But I mean, to your point, it really, the second thing I would then look out for is the go-to-market expertise, right? Is the person, I mean, it's a different gameplay if you go from 50 to 100 in a PLG motion than in the partner channel, right? So I would say most often you also have to look at your industry, right? And sometimes you'll find really good people who never did it before, but who work in your industry. They have product knowledge, they have market knowledge. Maybe they work at a tech partner, maybe they work at a solution agency partner and implement your solution, right? So it might be a good fit to come in as an account executive. I think one of our best account executives never was an account executive before, but used to work at an agency partner. So he would come with the industry and product expertise and was ready to kick it from day one, right? I mean, it depends a bit on the role you're looking for, and if you're looking for like leaders, people leaders, and it might be helpful to find someone who has done it before. And if the person isn't eager to do the story again, I mean, stop there. And it depends on what the go-to-market and kind of setup actually was. But it's very hard to find those patterns in a way. And as we said before, right, it's in general very hard to hire people in any stage.
Absolutely.
The hardest part is if you get to the next stage, right? Are people, one thing that we kept saying is, right, we as people have to grow with the company, right? Our knowledge has to grow. And as we grow into the next stage, I think every single person's job might be different to a certain degree, right? So also as a person, you have to ask yourself, am I willing to go into that next phase, right, with the company? Am I making an impact in this next phase? Because it is constantly changing and evolving, right? And the skills that helped you get to 10 million might not be the skills that help you get to 30 million.
It's fair. Yeah. And you also see a lot of people checking out at that point as well, which is normal, right? You see people saying, okay, look, this is not for me anymore, which is also acceptable, right? I mean, to a certain extent, but it's just not going to be for everyone. Like each different stage of company growth is going to feel a little bit different, and it might even feel like a completely different company.
Yeah, for a certain degree, for sure. And I think that's that's the good part, and also the not so good part about it, that you have to ask yourself constantly if you can contribute to the next stage, and be honest to yourself, right? But yeah, I mean, look at the statistics on how long marketing leaders stay in their
14 minutes. 14 minutes, yeah.
So I'm very proud that I think it's 18 months, right? In the CMOs, 18 months. So I made it for 4 years, and I'm very proud about that.
Congratulations, man. That's see, we laugh, but it actually isn't easy because things change so quickly, you know. It's yeah. But hey, look, we're just up on time now, man. It's been really great speaking with you. Where can people find you?
I mean, definitely on LinkedIn. Anyone can search for my name on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to connect with anyone who's in the B2B SaaS space and beyond.
Cool. All right, man. I'll get people as well. I'll make sure that the link to your LinkedIn is shared here, and also OtterlyAI as well. Get some more users up for you as well. So, hey, Thomas, it's been really great speaking with you. Thanks so much, mate. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Let's speak soon. Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, it's been another episode of Growth Path. Speak again next week. Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you. Bye-bye.